To most, the final part of Bleach has been absolutely incredible, delivering in areas where other parts have fallen short, while also surpassing the very best of what's come before. Like with most things nowadays, however, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Controversy is afoot, and it actually isn't dealing with what you may think, because what has viewers of the show divided isn't the handling of characters nor the quality of the animation. There's no mention of 3D models or anything of the sorts, probably because all of that stuff is being done extremely well, but no, what's actually causing the most discourse among fans is the opening. Kinda weird, I know, but this discourse, I believe, speaks to a larger topic of conversation, which we will get into just as soon as I disclose the extreme lack of impartialness being brought into the fold by yours truly. Eyeball by Joji, which is the name of the song and the artist for the opening, was purchased and has been on repeat for weeks by me. And this was obviously before I even caught a glimpse at it mixed with the visuals. And experiencing said visuals by no means changed my stance, if that wasn't evident enough already. Both are great on their own, and once brought together, we have a certified masterpiece. But those who hold a differing opinion more often than not don't just have a problem with this opening specifically. They actually think that the 1000-Year Blood Wars openings as a whole are far weaker than what the original Bleach anime had to offer, hence the quote-unquote larger topic of conversation. Now, while I do tend to find hate towards what Part 4 is offering before every episode to be unjustified and completely overblown given the song choice, specific style, and Sakuga, when viewing it from a wider lens, one that contains not just all that's been presented from this arc alone, but 15 other options, then I can kind of see why some would actually be let down by what the 1000-Year Blood War has offered them thus far. The openings of old have an extremely unique style and identity. The through line for almost every single entry is an array of bright colors used in combination with very creative visuals. And for the ones that depart from the norm, well, different effects are used that bring forth an almost entirely abstract style that coincidentally has led to having shots that make up some of the most well-known iconography from Bleach. Noriyuki Abe, I believe that's how you pronounce that, was the lead for the original anime and stayed for its entire 366 episodic run. And even though he may have probably been the reason behind some questionable changes while translating the manga to animation, he and the rotating teams of directors, animators, and musicians over at Studio Pierrot deserve all the praise in the world for what they were able to accomplish while being weekly with an undoubtedly cooked production schedule. Anyway, while keeping this wider lens perspective in mind, and after briefly assessing the uniqueness the original anime gave with what it offered, the question then becomes, what about these newer openings fall short for people when compared to the past? I think the answer is a little complex and almost certainly deals with a ton of subjectivity. However, the simplest answer, I believe, is a change in direction. Just by looking at all the parts presented so far, the intention behind this arc was clearly to deliver a more cinematic experience, which often tends to bring with it a more serious tone by nature. And that goes in tandem with the very subject matter of the story they are adapting. This is the 1000-Year Blood War. The stakes have never been higher and the consequences have never been more severe. So, since an anime opening is typically supposed to be a reflection of the identity of that series, then of course they are going to be darker or generally more serious, if that's what the series is going for. The opening of Part 1 is entitled Scar and performed by Tatsuya Kitani. Its genre is rock and leans heavily on a melancholic vibe. More than any of the other three, this one is reminiscent of what's come before, probably by design. The visuals, however, are where the differences emerge. page. They deal with only 4 colors: pink, gray, black, and white. These choices are almost entirely for aesthetic purposes, but they also help convey the new cinematic tone being established in this moment for the final arc of the series. The opening itself is also slow, it's dramatic, there's a ton of wide shots to display the scale of what we're about to be experiencing. Gone are the vibrant colors, extremely creative visuals, and there's rarely, if any, effects being used. A new era is here. The second opening is, funnily enough, an extreme departure from that new era. It tries to emulate in animation the visual style of those old openings. The color palette is super diverse, filled with oranges, greens, reds, etc. There's interesting effects applied here, and the opening overall attempts to convey the major events it'll be tackling in a pretty clever way, i.e. Asnat is charging towards Rugia on a skateboard, and she halts his progress by spraying him down with a fire extinguisher. In the aftermath, some frost can be seen on the bottom of her hair, which is obviously a nod to how she defeats him with her Bankai. Despite that though, the thing that ultimately holds this opening back, and in my opinion makes it the worst out of the 4, is the attempt at emulation without full dedication. Because while it may use a vast array of colors, the majority of them are muted. They lack that certain pop that was present in the old ones. It's also unbelievably slow. They use the same transition between different scenes like 12 times. And to top it all off, the song kinda sucks. Really, if I could encapsulate this opening in one phrase, it would be Identity Crisis. It attempts to be a nice mix of both eras, but winds up actually being a disservice to both. Now, OP3 is where we get back on track, and until part 4, it was my favorite of the bunch. This one fully embraces that serious cinematic feel, to the point where they even changed the aspect ratio to make it look more like a movie. Color is basically non-existent here, except for when characters' respective powers are in use, and lest I forget to mention, the song choice for it is fantastic. Without Any Words by Six Lounge starts off with a guitar rip that immediately sets the pace for what you're about to rock your head to for the next minute and a half. Almost everything about it is great. The only knock I'd say is a lack of flashy animation. But finally, with part 4, we have the aforementioned best opening in the 1,000-Year Blood War, and this one just has everything. The perfect song, the dramatic visuals, the flashy animation, that cinematic feel, all aspects of what this new era of Bleach has been about are fully embraced and adapted perfectly here. Side note here, my favorite moment from it is tied between Ichigo and the gang rushing towards Yuhaba and Hitsugaya flying up Valkyrie. So, after going through all of that, I would say that while I can certainly understand being let down by this new style of Bleach openings, because that fun, fast-paced, vibrant, and unique visual language is gone, try to shift your perspective, appreciate what came before, then understand why things are the way they are now. Also, tybw, the author of Bleach, is quite literally at the helm for this anime, so if anyone knows which openings are fitting / better for Bleach, it's him. But anyways, with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that is going to do it for this one, so thank you all very much for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with the notifications on, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody! This video is over, y'all, but do not fret, because you can watch another one from me right over here. Or there. It's in the center of the video.